Hello everybody and welcome back to our Python classes. Now, what we did in the previous videos is we saw some of the examples of actually importing our own class into a different program. So what we did is we basically coded our class in a separate file, then we put it in the same directory as our program that we are about to code, and then we imported it using the import function. Now, what we're going to do right now is we're going to do some program example or coding project, or however you want to call it. And we're going to simply use just classes and some other things that we learned before in order to create a simple project. So open up your idle, type it right here, open it up. Also let us open a new file because we are actually coding, and let us actually enlarge this and start coding right here. So what we are going to do right now is we're first of all going to create a simple class. Now that class is going to be, for example, class student. So let's first of all think about what we want to actually create. So what we want to create is an actual program that will be able to select students from this class and display their information for each one of them. We're also going to store the information for these students. For example, if you pick an option 1, then you will store an actual value for the student. And if you pick an option 2, then you will display the value for a certain specified student. So let us see how we can actually code that. First of all, let us code our own class. And right here, we will call it student, as you can see right here. So the next thing we want to do is let us use the same actual thing as in the previous class that we saw, which is the count of the actual employees, which was an example of the previous class. And right now we want to use the STU count, which basically stands for student count. We want to know the exact number of students as well as their marks. So we're going to actually implement their exam marks or something similar to that. And we are going to automate the entire process of that project. So let us go right here. We actually select the student count variable to be equal to 0, because this will actually increase each time we add a new student to this class. So in order to add it, we need to define an init function. Whoops. And the init function will store a certain values. First of all, we by now know that every class needs to have the self argument right here. I mean, every actual method in class has to have the self argument right here. And let us think about what we actually need. So of course we need first name, lname, which stands for basically the last name, and the actual, let's go with the subject. Oops. What was that? Subject. And the grade. Basically, these are the 4 actual variables that we're going to take for our class. So right here, we need to define them by using the self.fname equals fname. And now we need to do the same thing for each actual variable. So self.lname equals lname. Self.subject equals subject, and self.grade equals grade. So we finished these 4 variables, or all we are left to do right now is increase the student count variable by 1. So student, we know that we can access it with the prefix of our own class, outside and inside of the classes, because we actually defined it right here. Therefore, we can access it anywhere we like with this actual prefix. So student.stu count equals, or plus equals, let us do it like that. Basically, plus equals, we already know by now, is the same as equals and then the same variable plus 1. So, and then we will increase it by 1. Because by now we already know that this actual statement right here will only get called once we actually put a new element into this class. Therefore, this will increase each time we add a new student, which we actually want. So this is our init function. Now we can take another function right here, and we can call it the, for example, let's have the same function as the actual previous one, which will display the actual amount of employees. So display students count. This function will only take the self argument because we are in the actual class, and all we want to do is we are going to actually print right here total amount of students is, and then we can use %d, and with the %d we can actually use the calling of this actual variable right here, the same as we did right here. So student dot stu count, and we can close the brackets as we already did. Now make sure to put this inside the actual brackets, even though I believe it really doesn't have to be inside the brackets, but I just like to put it because it looks a little bit better. Therefore we are going to leave it like this. Now we can add another function if we want to. For example, if we want to display all the information for this certain actual user, we can do that. So let us see how we can actually perform that by writing everything in a new line. So right now we're going to implement our knowledge of strings and how we can actually write all of this information line by line without actually using the multiple line string, which is defined by 3 single and 3 open quotes. Pardon me, 3 open single quotes and 3 closed single quotes. So right here we can call it student information. Of course, this student information will take the self argument and nothing else. We add the 2 dots, and then we can code the part of the function, and this function will basically be just a big print statement. So right here what we can do is we can do something like this. So for example, first name, whoops, we need to actually add a string. So first name, 2 dots, and what we're going to add to this first name is basically, let me just show you right here, we're going to add plus self.firstname plus, and then we can add the new line character. Let me just switch my keyboard. So we are going to add \n for the new line character. We now know that that really indeed is the new line character. So now we know that everything we write afterwards will actually be written in a second line. So we can just simply add plus last name right here, plus last name, 2 dots. After the last name, we need to actually add the lname variable, which is going to contain the element for that specific student. So plus self.lastname. Now make sure that you actually refer to all the variables with the self argument because you're located in the class itself. Therefore, you need to use it. If you simply just write lname, this will not work. It will give you an error. So make sure to add self.lastname. Plus the new line character, \n, and then plus, and then we will add the actual subject, and after the subject we can add simply just grade. So let us go right here, subject plus self.subject, and then plus last time \n, and plus grade or mark, or however you want to call it, doesn't even matter. And right here we are going to add the actual self.grade, and therefore we actually finished this statement right here. Oops, let me just go right here. Okay, we can continue right now with the next statement. So let me just grade. Okay, so we did write then everything. For some reason, this doesn't want to work. Let us do it like this. we're just going to remove some actual empty spaces that we don't need, because I don't see the actual bar below that will actually scroll it to the left. It doesn't even matter, we can just write it like this. And right now we're going to add self.grade. Okay, self.grade. And everything is good right now. Okay, so right now what we're going to do after we coded our actual class, now you can right now choose whether you want to import it as an actual library, which we showed in the previous video how to do that, or you can actually choose to leave it right here and make it a part of your program, whatever you like. We're just going to leave it right here so we don't actually waste time importing it and saving it in a different file. We're just going to continue coding down here the remaining of our program. Therefore, as I said before, all we have to do right now is prompt the user for the available options to actually add to this class. So right here, what we can do is we can enter the while true loop. And the reason why we are entering the while true loop is because we actually want to run this indefinitely until the user specifies that they no longer want to use this program. And how we can do that is we can simply, let me just show you, we can simply just write right here the print option that will actually print, or we can write it outside of the while true loop so we don't print it every time. We can just print right here usage, and then we can use \n, and right here instead of that what we can do is we can simply just add the help option. Or let's leave the help option outside of this, because we are going to print the actual help option at the beginning of the program. Therefore, the user will not need to specify the actual help command to get this statement right here. So usage and then q equals quit the program \n. What else do we need? Add option 1, or add, let's just leave it like this, I will explain it later on. Add means add student \n, and display means display student information. Okay, so this will print at the beginning of our program, and right after it we are going to enter our while true loop, which is going to actually sort all of these available options. So right now all we need to do is prompt the user for an input. So option equals, we're simply just going to name the command option. So option equals input, and there we are going to specify enter the option you desire. Simple as that. So enter the option you desire. They have 3 available options. One of them is the letter Q, which will simply quit the program. The other one is the add, which will add student that they specify in the actual class itself, and the display student information, which is going to be simply specified by the word display, and then the student name will actually be displaying the student information. So right here they have those 3 options, and right now what we have to do in order to check which one they chose is to enter the actual if-else statement. So right here, if I just specify if equals, or pardon me, if option equals, not if equals, that wouldn't make any sense. So if option equals to the Q, we simply want to break out of the loop, and then we will actually close the program, because our while true loop is actually going to be our entire program. Therefore, as soon as we break out of it, we're going to break out of the program itself. Therefore, the option Q, if we simply just check out whether it is equal to Q, we can quit the program. Now, if you want to, you can add right here .strip, which will strip anything unnecessary from this actual option, but it is not really that necessary at the moment. We will see later on if we need it or not. And right here we are going to enter the else if statement. So else if the option equals to simply just specifying add. But you will notice that once you actually want to add the user, you're not only going to specify just simply add, because our program would not know any of this information. Therefore, we have two choices right here. We can use this option add as a single word, so we can store we can just prompt the user to simply just specify add, and then it will store the word add into the option, and then we will check right here whether the option is equal to word add. If it is, then we will prompt the user to specify the rest of this information. But we can also use it, and we can also prompt the user to actually specify all of these informations in this statement right here. So add, and then the first name, last name, subject, and grade. But that would be more work for us to do, therefore this one is easier. Therefore we are simply just going to check whether the option is equal to add. If it is, then we are going to prompt the user for this information. So enter the first name. So right here we can simply just do something like this. Fname equals input, enter student's name. Okay. Lname equals input. We can simply, or let us call it, so you don't confuse it, let us call it first underscore name, last underscore name. Oops, not lname, last underscore name. Input equals enter student's last name. So this is rather simple for now, nothing really to explain right here. We already covered all of this stuff that we are coding. Next thing is the actual subject, which we can specify to be equal to input, and then enter the subject of the exam. For example, math, some language, physics, or basically anything else, information technology, doesn't even matter. We're simply just specifying it in the subject variable, and the last thing we need to specify is the actual grade, or let's call it mark in this case, equals input, and there we're going to simply just specify enter student's grade. Okay, so these are the four information that we actually specified in our class. All we are left to do right now is actually add the student to the actual class itself as an actual object. So right here, what we can do is we can simply specify the count variable. Now the reason why we need count variable is because if you remember, the way we added the employees in the previous class is something like this: emp1 equals, and then we type employee, and then in the brackets we specify this desired information for that employee. But right here, you will notice that this will not really work like that. Now, the reason for that is because we're going to add right here multiple actual students, and we can't really mark them all as the same value right here. Therefore, what we're going to do is we are going to type right here the student name, or the student will be equal to first underscore name. Well, let us do it just like this, and I will show you why this won't work. So student equals, and then we're going to simply just type here student, and then in between the brackets we specify this desired information, which is first underscore name, last underscore name, subject, and also grade. Or pardon me, we called it mark, so we're just going to type it right here. Let me just divide all of this. Okay, so this is how we define the student to be in this actual class. And right now, if we actually want to display the information, we can simply just type here else if option equals to display. So right here, we're going to display the information with usage of this display student information count right here. We're going to prompt the user for the actual or we're not going to prompt anything to the user. We're simply just going to print right here the actual student, or let us just call it like this, print student dot, and then we are going to use student information right here. Now let me just check out whether this will work. If I just save this program right here, save it, go to the Python program, save it as student class.py, run it. Now of course we are going to have some invalid syntax. Let me just check out where it is. Yeah, we are missing the single quote right here, so let us add it, add this single quote, and right now save it once again, run it. Let me just find the second error, because apparently we have another error. Quit the program, add architecture, display student information. Let me just see whether this \n is actually making us a problem. It's not really that important to us right now. We're going to decorate this program later on, but apparently that is not the only problem right here. Let me just delete all of this and just simply type here usage to see whether the actual, error is in the print statement. Okay, so it has nothing to do with the print statement. It could be somewhere right here. Great, we are missing somewhere a single quote, perhaps. Let me just check it out. Let's go right here. Did we close the actual bracket at the end? Yeah, we are missing an actual bracket. Okay, so now it should work. Let me just save it once again and run the program. We can see right here usage. Of course, we have nothing printed out right here because we deleted it. We're going to add it later on. Enter the option you desire. We know there are 3 options. If we just first of all specify Q, we can see the programs quits successfully. But now let's try with a different option. If we specify right here, enter the option you desire, when we specify add, we can see enter student's name. So let's call him Mark. Mark is the last name as well. Enter the subject, math, and the grade B. Enter the option you desire. So right now we know that we actually finished these statements right here. We then went to the beginning of the while true loop, and now it is prompting us for the option once again. If I just specify display right now, we're going to get the actual student information missing one required positional argument, which is the self argument. Okay, let me just check it out right here. Of course, we are trying to actually call the function itself, and we need to call it onto the student right here. Therefore, we need to specify something like this. Let me just go right here, put it in the lower letters and run it once again. Type here display. Student is not defined. Let me actually take a look at this right here. Display information. Display student count is something that we didn't use yet, but doesn't even matter. Let's first of all get this to work. Okay, student equals student. We define the actual student. Yeah, we can't really print that. I just noticed that we actually typed right here print. We need to get rid of the print statement and simply just use it like this. If I just go right here and I go to the add and add Mark, math, and then B, and then type here display, we're going to get displayed all of the information about Mark, as we can see right here. First name Mark, last name Mark, subject math, grade B. Okay, so everything displayed correctly. Now, the only problem right here is if you just specify once again add, and then you enter the student's name to be Adam, last name Adam. Let's go with the Spanish, doesn't even matter. And then A. And then you just type here display once again. you will see that right now, you will only get displayed the information about Adam, because the student right here, which is the student mark, was overwritten, and therefore every time you specify display in the next actual specification of this command, you will only get displayed the last person that you added to the actual program. But no worries, we're going to fix all of that. For now on, we know that our queue option works, our add option works, and our display option works. The only problem is how we're going to actually add the students and select them one by one. But we're going to take a look at that in the next tutorial. So right now we are going to cut this tutorial short, and I hope I will see you in the next lecture. Take care and bye.